Dispatch received a phone call from a male requesting that animal control contact him via telephone. Our animal control officer called this subject and he identified himself as the person depicted in the video and the owner of the dog. He was interviewed over the phone and then later in person. He made some statements about the reason why he was frustrated with his dog. The dog got out of his fence. He was late for work and he was frustrated. Officers went out to the scene later that day to check the welfare of the dog. Our animal control officers are certified vet techs, and the officer that went out on scene has 16 years experience as a vet tech. She did an evaluation of the dog and didn't note any injuries on the dog. The dog seemed to be in good health. The dog didn't seem to be afraid of the owner, and based on that information, she issued a citation to the male subject for failing to have a dog license and also for failing to have current rabies vaccinations. Following that contact, a meeting was made with the prosecuting attorney's office to staff this case for further investigation, and it was determined that a citation was going to be issued to the male subject for animal cruelty, which is a misdemeanor. It's his first offense, and that the dog was going to be seized per Idaho code and taken to the shelter. The next day on the 9th, officers responded out to the address where the subject lived along with the dog. He was not home. However, the subject's brother was there and the dog was there, and the dog was seized and taken to West Valley. Later on last night, after 7 p.m., the subject called our animal control officer when she was off duty, inquiring about the location of his dog and why the dog had been seized. And it was arranged that we were going to meet with him today to issue him a misdemeanor citation per the request of the prosecuting attorney's office. Earlier this morning, he was issued that citation with a court appearance date, and that's the end of our investigation at this point. Are there any questions?
Are you willing to identify the man?
So it's an active pending case. He has been cited. That information can be released from the prosecutor after they have a chance to actually review the case.
Do you know if there's a case number associated with the case, or is that a prosecutor question?
I don't know the case number, but you can do a public records request through dispatch after we're done here today, and they can get that information to you.
Could you just kind of describe what was going through your head when you saw the video?
I'm a dog owner, and it seemed very unnecessary to me, not knowing the backstory. However, I have had my dog get out of the yard. I didn't do what this gentleman did, but I understand his frustration. I don't understand the way that he took his frustration out.
What's kind of been the general reaction from the community to this? Not sure if you can speak to that.
Okay, I'll have the chief answer that.
So this expectedly gained a lot of viral attention on social media, which is what prompted us to have this press conference today. And to answer your question, sir, the community is outraged, as well as members of this police department, the mayor, the city council. We're not going to tolerate animal cruelty. As a dog owner myself, there's ways to train or discipline a dog. However, like Lieutenant Winfield said, it's not what the actions of this suspect did in this case are not acceptable. Idaho law prohibits that type of conduct, but what I would urge the public to hear me on this is that we are doing everything we can to investigate this matter and take it serious. I would also urge the public to refrain from going after this individual if it becomes public, and who he is, if his identity becomes public, because that poses a another substantial risk to him and his family, because obviously there's a lot of emotions involved. We are doing our job. The public needs to be confident in myself and my staff in this organization to take this serious and to bring justice forward in this case. I understand everyone's frustration and concerns, but the last thing we need is a mob to basically take over social media and take the law into their hands. In this case, this was a misdemeanor, not committed in any of the officer's presence. Under current Idaho law, only a felony that is not committed in an officer's presence, we can make an immediate arrest on. And that's why the system in this case and the process has to be followed, so we can respect the suspect's due process and his constitutional rights, as well as state law and rights here, as well as the integrity of the investigation. Any other questions? Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Citations, like what kind of fines is that?
So it's a misdemeanor citation, so basically it's a release from custody. So technically, by the law, he was arrested and released this morning at his residence, which is in the neighborhood where the incident took place. And the important thing to highlight is that the dog was his dog. This is not a neighbor's dog. This is not a strange dog. This is the suspect's dog who got out of his yard and wandered into someone else's yard.
When you say arrested and then immediately released, I'm assuming that means he wasn't taken into jail?
Correct. He was not booked into the facility. He was cited and released for a misdemeanor charge of animal
And
cruelty.
that, does that follow, could it serve any jail time?
Yes,
Okay.
if convicted.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Do you have like the block where it happened, or?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, ma'am.
Do you have like general area you can share about where it happened? Like the block maybe?
The 1000 block of 7th Avenue?
Okay, thank you.
Yes, and it's in the original press release, and that's kind of why we're here, is I wanted to, instead of giving you guys nuggets at a time and just giving piecemeal information, I would have rather just had a press conference and addressed everyone and all the outlets together as one and answer any questions. But there's certain things, obviously, due to the sensitive nature of this specific investigation, because it relates to an animal, that people's emotions are extremely high. It's circulating out on social media that the community wants to do a protest tomorrow at City Hall. I would urge them to exercise their constitutional right to assembly. However, we will have officers monitoring that event, and with the hopes that they hear me on this press conference and they do not do a formal protest, which could disrupt the nature of the city and the business of the city and traffic, and pose it could pose a threat to the community by having a protest that is spontaneous and not pre-planned with permits in such fashion. Yes, sir.
If someone in the community witnesses what they believe to be animal cruelty, animal abuse, what steps should they take?
So exactly what the reporting party did the day that the incident happened is they called 911, they called our dispatch center, and that's exactly what I would urge everyone to do. If there's any concerns from the community, they can always get a hold of the police department, 911. Dispatch will send units out there. And the important thing is don't take matters into your own hands, and because ultimately it could lead to injury or death on either party, and we want to avoid all that. We're here to protect everyone's rights and make sure that everyone in this community is safe.
Regarding the protests, I know that you said, so you're kind of saying to not encouraging the public to kind of have this impromptu protest, but obviously people have the right
Absolutely.
to have this impromptu protest. Could you just maybe elaborate on
Sure.
why you don't think that having kind of the impromptu versus the more planned protest is appropriate in this case?
Well, I think generally when and this is my experience, when people protest, it's because they're misinformed, they don't have all the facts. And I hope by the end of this press conference that you, the media, can put out the facts pertinent to this case and ensure that justice will be served, and that our citizens in Caldwell don't have to exercise their First Amendment right to go to City Hall and protest. City Hall, if they want to protest, they can come in front of my station, protest here. City Hall is obviously down the street. My posture and our department's posture is to facilitate a peaceful protest in anyone's, that's their First Amendment right. But hopefully my goal here is to mitigate that and ensure that everyone is safe, and that anyone that wishes to protest understands that they can't break the law when they're protesting. I want people to exercise their First Amendment right, and we will have officers there to ensure that they are safe as well and exercising their First Amendment right.
Have you received concerns taking this into their own hands? Because that's something you're aware of, or is it more just from the social media comments, or where is that narrative headed?
At this point, there's no specific threats to the individual is accused of doing this. He's obviously a suspect. He's innocent until proven guilty, which is our constitutional right here in the United States. However, this is more of the rhetoric on Nextdoor, which is the social media app, and also on Facebook and the different social media platforms, which has all come to my attention as the chief of police. Any other questions regarding this incident? And I want to conclude this by saying, we saw the video. It's extremely disturbing to me, to my staff, to anyone that views this video, including everyone in the community. And their concerns are valid. We hear them, we see them, we feel them. But we just have to remain calm, let the investigators do their job, let the county prosecuting attorney do their job, work in partnership with them to bring justice. And that's what I'll end on that. Moving into some more news today, I was informed earlier today by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, in relating to the former Lieutenant Joey Hoadley criminal indictments. And these are all public documents now, that there were 2 additional charges filed against Mr. Hoadley today in federal court. The first charge, which is count 3 on the original indictment, is tampering with a witness by harassment. The second charge is count number 4, which is tampering with documents. That's all the information I have at this time on that matter. It's obviously pending, and they're still litigating that case. So everything that the media has is what I have from Pacer and from online, and that's all the information I have on that. Any questions on that? Yes, sir.
What's the kind of reaction from the Caldwell Police Department to the additional charges that were filed today?
That's a good question. I think people are they want this matter to be closed, and they want to move past this and not distracted, and it's kind of noise at this point, and our officers need to get back to doing their job and protecting and serving this community that they swore to uphold and protect.
Are you able to comment at all? I know there was the 6 additional officers that are under investigation by post, not necessarily maybe completely with the FBI's kind of
Sure.
that kind of gray area. Can you comment anything on how those cases are pending, or have we come to any conclusions on those?
No conclusions on that. What I can tell you is that those officers, 1 former and 5 current, are under investigation for decertification. However, that investigation has been put on hold because under IDAPA law, if there's a pending criminal case or the pending internal affairs investigation, then Idaho Post cannot do a parallel investigation. So we have internal affairs investigators currently working on those employees right now, those 5 current employees. And they're looking into that, so with the intent of either exonerating folks that are accused of doing things or disciplining them or up to termination. Because the citizens in Caldwell deserve to have the most police officers on the street doing their job to keep this place safe. And it's been a very big burden on me as the manager of this organization to staff our cars appropriately, to staff our investigations appropriately, because that's 5 officers that all had an instrumental role in doing different things in this organization. And they are still working, they're being paid, they're just assigned to administrative duties right now, and they're not handling any cases, and they're not actually handling radio calls.
Do we know if any additional charges have been filed on Hoadley, or should we expect these to be the last one?
At this point, I don't know. That would be up to the FBI to disclose that, but I don't know. Thank you. Any other questions? Sir? Has
the Caldwell Police Department been cooperating with the FBI on the investigation?
Yes, and I'll say to that, prior to my appointment here, there wasn't the most full cooperation from this organization with the FBI. Since I took over July 5th, I've had regular communications with the investigators assigned to this case, and I want to ensure the public that if they have any complaints or they want to report misconduct, they can call us, they can call the FBI, they can call anyone, but I will take them seriously. And at this point, due to the nature of the criminal case pending, there's a lot of people that are coming forward with information, and I would encourage that people continue to do that, but we have to respect the time frame and allow us to do our job to investigate all these claims.
Did these charges come as a surprise?
In what context?
The new charges today, did they come as a surprise
No, I was told from our FBI partners that more charges could be pending, but that they would let me know if any were concrete. And today I was officially let known by the FBI.
Is there any way that you can elaborate on the charges, maybe what they're related to at all?
Other than what's in this PACER document, count 3, tampering with a witness by harassment, you know, obviously someone is a protected witness by the FBI and is testifying, and it appears that Mr. Hoadley may have or is alleged to try to dissuade that witness from testifying under oath.
I understand you might not be able to provide the information to us, but are you guys even aware of like who these people are, or is it like just the FBI's control?
The FBI, because it's a top secret grand jury that convenes, and so everyone is sworn to secrecy, and there's certain things that I'm not aware of, and that's just the nature of criminal investigations, because as you know, people talk, and it could implicate the case further down the road.
What else, I guess, is being done? Just obviously, you're new leadership, things. There's a lot going on. What else is kind of being done to make sure people in Caldwell feel safe around police officers? Because obviously, there's been quite a few officers. There's Hoadley, and then there's the other 5, 6 officers. People might have some concerns.
Sure.
What is being done to make them feel safe?
So I'm looking at systems and controls and basically accountability and transparency. And since I took over, our social media platform has increased dramatically, as you guys are well aware. I'm really stressing on all of our staff here, both sworn and civilian, to be professional. And I will hold people accountable, and I will hold supervisors accountable, specifically with my lieutenants that are here. It starts with them, and I've had meetings every day. I've met with every employee one-on-one since I took over, and I've heard their concerns, I've heard their frustrations, and the important thing to the community is that you have to give us the benefit of the doubt, and you have to not categorize all police officers as bad. We hire from the human gene pool, and when humans are in positions of employment, whether it's here or McDonald's or Chick-fil-A, humans make mistakes. And I'm not trying to justify what the actions of Mr. Hoadley or the allegations, but what I would say is we have about 99% of our employees here that do a professional job and that actually reported these allegations to the FBI. It wasn't the community that did that. The community's involved in that piece, but the initial allegations that were reported came from within this organization. And that's what the community needs to know, is that we have courageous people here that are defending this badge and representing it to the best of their ability. Like last week when we had 2 police officers who were not trained in swift water rescue who jumped in a fast, cold-paced moving river and rescued a man who does not and has a history with the police not liking the police. So that came full circle, and that's the type of the things that we do every day that unfortunately our community doesn't really see, that we hear the bad news, because bad news sells. So I want to say as the leader of this organization that it starts with accountability, transparency, but also highlighting the phenomenal work that our employees do every single day, being ran by the mayor of Caldwell, who is extremely supportive of the work that we do, and our lovely city council, who has the faith and confidence in our police officers and our civilian staff to do their job to the best of their ability. We are giving officers and civilian staff raises, and I'm a firm believer that if we treat our employees well, then they treat the community well, right? And so happy cops are productive cops, and productive cops reduce crime. And the mission of any police organization in this country is to reduce crime. So when we look at that from a leadership perspective, the way we treat our employees has a direct correlation with how the public perceives us. And the biggest thing is restoring legitimacy here in this police department with the public. I've gone on Spanish radio. I'm trying to actively recruit more Hispanic personnel, both sworn and civilian, because this city is 36% Hispanic, and we need to mirror that community that we serve. And a lot of it, we deal with humans just like we're humans, but the police need to be the people, and the people need to be part of our police department. And I'm a firm believer in that concept of procedural justice, giving people a voice, giving people a chance to be heard, both internally and externally. And I am open to meeting anyone in the community. I've tried to restore all lost partnerships with our allied agencies, as well as our community members who may have not trusted the police lately, to bring some sort of dialogue back and relationship back that has been lost because of this pending FBI investigation. Thank you for the question. Anyone else?
Is there anyone else who currently works for the department that's under investigation?
That's a very vague question. As far as what, sir?
Is there anyone else, I guess, in the department that, you know, with you in charge today that's being investigated?
Not related to that, but every day, as you know, we're a business, police departments are a business, and when we do business, we upset people, and people make complaints all day in every police department. Just to give it in perspective, in Los Angeles, where I came from, they field about 6,000 official internal affairs investigations a year. Now, they have 13,000 employees, so not all those allegations would be sustained. A majority of them are unfounded. In this case here, with the more exposure we have and the more transparent we are and the more accountable we seem and more legitimate that we are with the community, the public can expect that more people will come forward and report what they believe are violations of law, policy, or procedure, and that we will investigate those. I will say, though, that obviously things have ramped up with investigations, and as the big investigation continues, more and more folks could be investigated later on, but they could also be exonerated. But the important thing is that we are working on this, and that I take everything seriously, and that I will do everything in my power to restore legitimacy with the community here, because they deserve it.
And then you mentioned as this investigation kind of continues, there's new information coming in, just, you know, from people. What new information is coming in?
Well, there could be anything coming in, but you know, people could be reporting things that they're upset about from 2016, 2015, 2010, that they now feel empowered to come forward because they feel like we are going to take them serious. So it could be minor policy violations, an officer didn't give me a business card, it could be anything. But the nature of this current FBI investigation, the 5 that have been officially investigated or are being investigated by post, that's the extent of those. But they haven't been interviewed yet, so they might, you know, reveal something during a confidential interview that implicates someone else, and then that would spiderweb into someone else, and then so on and so forth. And that's why I ask the public and the media to be very patient with me and this organization, because we are working tirelessly to get to the bottom of this investigation, and you know, and just it's an overall. There's hundreds of people that were interviewed in this investigation by the FBI and the partners that work with the FBI, and so the investigators assigned to my case regarding the 5 have to sift through all that stuff and determine what they believe is credible and how they can basically strategize their investigation. So it will take a long time.
I remember under prior leadership, there was a comment that along with Hoadley, there was maybe at least one other officer. I know that we obviously have the 5 now being investigated by post. Are you able to just clarify like what that meant? Because we've heard, you know, there was at least maybe one other officer that might
Yes.
receive federal charges. Or
Yes.
is that actually so accurate? Is that maybe one of the post officers? Just, I understand you can't
Yes.
name him maybe.
So, and I cannot name this individual, but I will tell you that I have been briefed by the Federal Bureau of Investigation that they are looking at charging one additional person. Thank you for that question. Any other questions? Any questions? Ma'am, in the corner with the mask on. I think you had one.
Me. I guess, yeah, is there
Okay.
anything else that you've learned since you started about other changes that need to happen within the department?
Well, I'm working about 18 to 20 hours a day, and I can tell you there's a lot of things that need to be looked at and evaluated. But as you know, a big ship is very tough to turn fast, quickly, as seen with the Titanic or any other, you know, metaphor that we can use. But yeah, there are things that we're looking at as far as hiring, training, recruitment, retention, systems in place, policies, procedures, just the overall way that this organization has been running needs to be looked at. And what I'm doing in partnership with my lieutenants here is that we are looking at all these things under a microscope, metaphorically speaking, and we will be, you know, coming up with committees to determine best practices in law enforcement and to identify what the needs of the community are, so we can get the buy-in from the community and make them feel like they're part of us. I can tell you that the mission, vision, and values of the organization will be changed. I am currently changing the name of Street Crimes, which is historically known as our gang unit on the street, which is involved in this FBI investigation. The current members of that unit were not involved in that investigation. We're not working that unit. Some of them weren't even employed here during that time. But the name Street Crimes there's a connotation between the old unit and the new unit. So in order to get them to do their job without being stereotyped or profiled by the community for doing their job to the best of their ability. I'm going to change that name. We're changing their uniform appearance so they can look like us in uniform, and the community can feel safe knowing that they're doing their job and they are not those members. But there's a lot of little things like that, and some things are bigger and they take more time and they take money. You know, a lot of these things take budget. If we're looking at technology, we're looking at possibly changing body cameras to a different company to make it a little more in line with what is acceptable nationwide. But there's a lot of things. Like I said, I'm working long hours, and I want to thank my partner, my assistant Gabriella Godino, who's in the back. I want to thank Lieutenant Dave Wright, who's been working tirelessly on this, Lieutenant Doug Winfield, who is running patrol right now. And so reorganizing the department, that was part of the thing that I did, is I restructured kind of who people report to and what their responsibilities are, and changing the leadership up. And so Doug is a great addition to patrol. He is overseeing basically just over half of our workforce that report directly to him under his command and control, and he's doing a phenomenal job. 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Someone calls the police, someone under Lieutenant Winfield's command and control is providing service to them, which is why he briefed you on the animal cruelty matter. But it takes a big team here. Our records ladies that work in there, our professional staff, you know, they are working all day long, and unfortunately, they're taking the brunt of all the requests from you, from the media, from the community, from angry citizens. They're the ones answering the phone and getting yelled at, getting hung up on, getting threats from community members because, you know, folks that wear this badge are basically have tarnished the reputation, and so they are the ones that are hearing it all day long. And then by the time it gets to me, you know, it's maybe a day later. So I'm trying to reestablish that communication and really give them hope that we will take their burden off their shoulders so they can do their job and handle all the, you know, public records requests and do and process all the reports that our officers are taking every day. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Within the window of time that you've come in, what positive cultural changes do you think have been established or that you've seen?
Well, that probably, you might want to interview officers, because that would be very subjective of me to say positive, but I can tell you that just based on what I've seen and what I've heard and my interactions with every employee in this organization, minus one who I'm meeting with tomorrow, he's been light duty and at home, it's been very positive. People feel like they've said that the weight has been taken off their shoulders, they're now heard, they're restored some confidence to come do their job. And you gotta understand, and the community needs to understand, is, you know, this organization went through COVID, as did the rest of the world, went through mandates, went through scrutiny, went through the 2020 sentiment of George Floyd and all that tragic stuff that happened. And these folks still came to work every day. And then when this story broke, they still came to work. And yeah, we lost some people, but majority of the people that we've lost have left for higher pay. They've gone to Meridian, they've gone to Boise, they've gone to Ada County, they've gone to different agencies. But I can say that in the last week, we've had more interest in officers from different agencies and new police officer recruits wanting to work Caldwell PD because of the positive changes that we're doing here. And it's not me, it's everyone else that's doing it. It's the team. And it's the support of the mayor, and it's the support of the city council. And everyone comes together to make this place great. And I think that needs to be highlighted, because a lot of people just see CPD or Caldwell PD or just a police officer and automatically, you know, they had an incident, so they just don't trust the officers. And that's totally acceptable too. So what I'm trying to stress on my employees is that whether you're a professional staffer or you're a police officer, the one encounter you have with a person in the public could be the only encounter that person ever has with a police officer. So it needs to be nothing but professional, and is exactly what I expect, because that person's, you know, perception or view of law enforcement because of George Floyd, because of the 2020 defund movement, has kind of been skewed. And that's the important thing with this FBI investigation, is that the public needs to feel confident that we are doing what we need to do to cooperate, but also to move past this and restore the once great reputation that CPD had. Thank you. Any other questions on that? Thank you very much. This concludes our press conference. I appreciate your time.